Thank you. I think we can start. And my name is Franco Bonaccina. I'm the spokesman of the Director General of the European Space Agency. And he is with us since July 1st only. In his previous life, he was the big boss of DLR. And he joined ESA on the 1st of July, being with space already for many, many years, and because he was the head of the German delegation at the European Space Agency, so he has been swimming in space for quite some time. I leave the floor directly to Jan Woerner, and then we take question and answers afterwards. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, and indeed it's a very special pleasure for me to welcome all of you for this event as not newly elected, but newly in positioned Director General of ESA since 1st of July, so a little bit more than 100 days. I did not feel that the first 100 days I was handled in a special way, so I think it was just the normal procedure, and I'm quite happy. And as I said yesterday at another location, I think it's part of the game, and it's part of also the understanding. So Franco was nice enough to tell you that I was acting in space already since several years. However, you see, German Aerospace Center is not only covering space, but aeronautics, energy, transport, and security. So you can hardly find a person being an expert in all these areas. So you can also take somebody who has no idea at all of the different subjects. And now I'm as a civil engineer, being the Director General of ESA is a very special honor for me, and I like it very much. So therefore, thank you for the words. And we have also some ESA stuff here today. So when I cannot answer the question, I'm quite sure that some of you can answer. So I'm looking to the people. They are saying yes with their body language, which is fine. You got this short paper, and if you are missing one, this is, as Franco was saying, this was a preparation for today's meeting, so that I'm also have a list of what happened. I will not go through the list, but I will just point out some of them. So what happened, but as I said yesterday, with a quote of Albert Einstein, I'm not so much interested in the past, I'm more interested in the future, because I intend to live in the future. So therefore, forgive me if you don't get the full report about what happened. But however, some of the aspects I would like to mention, because they are very, very special. So we had we had the launch of Vega with the IXV and on the 11th of February this year. And this was a very special launch, a suborbital flight with re-entry. But it's important to have this capability, as ESA is always trying to be able to have the full chain of space activities in its competence. Then I would say some other words. So we are now 22 member states plus Canada. This is legally not correct 100%, but because the process to become a full member of ESA is rather complicated, so it's not that you just say, yes, here I am. No, you have to follow a procedure, you have to pay some entrance fee, and then you need also, of course, the acceptance of the Council of ESA. You then need also the acceptance and the confirmation of your home parliament, and the final step is then, because ESA headquarters is located in France, you need also the confirmation of the French government. So we have it for 21 member states. We have it, everything what I mentioned. For Hungary, we got yesterday the information from the Hungarian parliament that they decided unanimously in favor of Hungary being a member state of ESA. Now only the last step is missing, that the French government should confirm it. But because France, as a member state within ESA already, were positively towards this accession, I don't see any problem. So this is good, because with Hungary and Estonia was the last one, we are even broadening our not only geographical distribution, but also the competence. And as you know, so the spirit of ESA being a European space agency covering totally different nations with totally different understanding what is important for space. One country is more looking to science, the other one is more looking to applications, the third one is more focused in development of technology. So very different nations, and it's really a pleasure for Director General to put all of these different activities, also money-wise, from very big contributions, more than 20% from some member states and less than 1% for others. So this diversity of the member states is for me a big opportunity to develop ESA for the future. It's a challenge and it's an opportunity at the same time, and I like it. So therefore, now I can officially say, yes, we are close to 22 member states plus Canada. There are some more member states at the door, European member states where we have special agreements to give them an opportunity to develop until they become full member, because in the moment you are a full member state, then you should have also a benefit. You should contribute financially, but you want to have also something back, which means that you need some competence. So this is not an easy task for some of the countries, but I think we are on a very good way for that. Galileo, we had some more Galileo launches. You know that we had also some, let's say, small problem. The orbits, there are several possibilities to go in orbit. This time, the last time we selected the wrong one, but now the final launch we had was another success. So we are heading for early services, initial services, however you call it. More important is what does it mean? Mid of next year. We are committed to that. It's a difficult task, but the European Commission and ESA were discussing about it, and it's clear we have to deliver. This is for sure a very important point. So therefore, this is also, Galileo is also an international activity because, as you know, they are launched from Kourou, French Guiana, South America, but by a Russian-produced launcher from a European side. So it's already also a part of our understanding of international cooperation. And this is also true for human spaceflight. We had the landing of Samantha Cristoforetti, a European astronaut of Italian nationality. We had launch and landing of Andreas Mogensen, a European astronaut of Danish nationality. We will have the launch of Timothy Peake this year, a European astronaut of British nationality, and next year Thomas Pesquet, again a European astronaut of French nationality, will hopefully go to the International Space Stations, which is again a special part of cooperation because it puts together the Russian competence in launching and the US competence also on board of the station to do experiments. They are there to do experiments, and the exploitation of ISS is of major importance, and it will be also of major importance, these launches and these stays on board of the International Space Stations for the big question we have to raise and we have to answer at the end of next year in the Council on Ministerial level, which takes place usually all 3 years, just to those who don't know what that means. So usually we have the normal Council of ESA meeting 3 to 4 times a year, where we discuss about urgent matters, and the member states then give a clear hint, not only a hint, decisions to the Director General how to do this or that. And then regularly all 3 years we have such a council on minister level. That means the ministers of the different member states come together, and there then the big lines for the upcoming years are decided, whatever it is it launcher, that was the last time was launcher, was a big issue, but also this time it will be the International Space Station to go beyond 2024. We had, of course, in this year very nice aspects with Rosetta, with the lander Philae, which is on the surface of the comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko. And Philae shut down on November 15th last year, after it worked perfectly. This is just a message I have to repeat always and always and always, because people are asking, oh, you had some trouble with your lander. No, there was no trouble with the lander. We tried to land once, and now we succeeded in landing 3 times on the same comet, so it was very successful. And all the equipment were working, so we got all the important scientific data. Now then, the next thing was that it was a little bit in the shadow, so after 58 hours of work, Philae was sleeping a little bit. You could call it hibernation. And then we had the next situation that we had to move away the main spacecraft, Rosetta, because it's too dangerous to be too close to the comet when the comet starts to have the coma because of coming closer to the sun. So we had to go farther away, which means we don't have the direct connection to Philae. But in between we had some contacts, and we are now looking again for some contacts in the future. But again, the mission, the main aspect is everything is fine. We got very nice data, so we are very happy. And again, Rosetta, to mention it, it's not just a mission. It's an ESA mission with participating states in addition, which is a little bit strange. But for instance, on the lander, France, Italy, and Germany were leading the lander, putting together all their instruments on the lander. And the ESA was directly responsible for the Rosetta spacecraft and the overall mission control. So it's an additional internationalization of a European mission. So we had and have some Sentinel for the Copernicus, some Sentinel launches, and we opened another center in Harwell in UK. It's called EXAT. Where we have the European Center for Space Applications and Telecommunications. And it was interesting because the first ESA Director General Roy Gibson was there and opened it. And this is always for me a very special experience to meet the predecessors. So I had also some discussion with Reimer Lüst, my predecessor. I don't know how many pre's. But these people can tell you a lot about the tradition and history and the successful development of ESA. So we are, after the last ministerial we had, where we decided to enter the development of Ariane 6, 64, 62, if I want to be correct, and the Vega C development. This started now, it's underway. We will have next year, in the middle of next year, between June and September, something like that, we will have a check of whether the development is really progressing, whether all the high-level requirements the minister were defining, whether these are really fulfilled. So it's important. It's a question of the function of that, of the power of that launchers. It's a question of the timetable, and it's a question of money. And whenever you heard that some people are saying it's getting more expensive, this is wrong. We are still at the same numbers decided by the politicians, and I'm, as a Director General, will not accept any deviation from that, just in between. We have to see. When the requirements are changing, then we might discuss about something, but so far the requirements are the same requirements as in the ministerial conference, and therefore everything is online. And it's part of the game that we are changing the governance, meaning the high-level requirements were defined. Now the launcher industry has to produce it according to these high-level requirements, taking still into account the geo-return or just return for the retour for the different member states. So this is in line, but we will have at the middle of next year, we will have this intermediate check, because it's important to see whether we are in line for the next steps. So for me, the future is, of course, the more interesting one. So we will have several launches. We will have Sentinel-3A and Sentinel-5 launch for the Copernicus program. One is more for sea surface investigation and the other one for atmospheric investigation. And then we will have a scientific, really very, very interesting mission. It's the LISA Pathfinder. This is, if you look into what they wanted to achieve, it's really unbelievable, I should say. And when I say unbelievable, I know the people believe I'm not trusting them. I trust the scientists. But when I heard about the program, this is really unbelievable. What we are discussing there is, and LISA Pathfinder is just a precursor, a first demonstrator that we can develop the technology. But Albert Einstein, in his relativity theory, defined that gravity is not just a constant force, as we know when I I give this class a final second. But there are waves. Now, how can waves happen? If you have, for instance, two neutron stars turning around, then you will get, in addition to the gravity force, you will get gravitational waves. I hope if there are some scientists in the room, he or she will immediately correct me, but this is what I learned from it, because I'm always trying to learn it. So you get these gravitational forces as a wave. And that means, and the wave has a frequency which is really low, really low. It's much lower than my sound, it's lower than his sound. It's really far down to below 1 hertz. So it's really slow and very, very small the amplitude. So, and to measure that, it's so sensitive that they, for instance, during the launch of this spacecraft, they have to get rid of all liquid propulsion before they can do anything, because the movement of the liquid propulsion in the tank would be more bigger difference in the change of gravity than these gravitational waves. So it's really an unbelievable project, and we will have hopefully the launch of LISA Pathfinder. Again, LISA Pathfinder is not the real one, it's the Pathfinder. Checking the method will be at the end of this year, as well as we will have another Galileo launch. And next year we will have more Galileo launches, and we will have at the beginning of next year, hopefully, also ExoMars, starting with the first launch out of a series of 2, 2016 and 2018. Of course, water on Mars is a question which was raised in the last couple of days again. We found with Mars Express water on Mars in a frozen status as ice, and now there is some points of view getting from the Mars reconnaissance orbiter of NASA that there is also still some liquid but very, very, very salty water on Mars. And this, of course, is an interesting point for the future. And it's very nice that we are cooperating worldwide also in the exploration of our solar system. So, as I said, next year we will have also Thomas Pesquet be launched. But for me, as I mentioned earlier, the most important thing is the preparation of the ministerial conference in 2016, because that should pave the way for the future of ESA, and that should pave the way for the European space activities in general, as well as in cooperation with international partners. And in Europe, we have, besides ESA, we have also the European Union, the European Commission. And this is a very special relation we have between ESA and European Commission. So the European Commission was setting up the Galileo program and the Copernicus program, Galileo for navigation, Copernicus for Earth observation. And they are defining the high-level requirements, they are defining the calendar, they are defining the budget, and ESA is then the entity which is really doing out of that real stuff. I mean, to design the satellites, to have all the operations done, etc. So the interaction between ESA and the European Commission is of utmost importance for the future, as it is with other partners in Europe. And therefore, instead of looking for my dream of United States of Europe, which is still my dream, I can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. I try at least to realize something in that direction, and I call it United Space in Europe. And with that, we then come also to the question, how is Europe cooperating in the future with the other member states or the other states around the globe? We are very open. We like to be the enabler, the mediator, the broker for international cooperation. We are very happy that we are part of the International Space Station, but at this time we also have to consider what comes after the International Space Station, and we have to consider at the same time what can we do for the current global challenges we have. Current global challenges, you know, is a big list, but I just mentioned two out of it. One is climate change. We will have an important conference in Paris at the end of this year. And the question is, what can space do in this respect? Monitoring, that's number one. Let's say just to observe whether we have a climate change, what about the sea surface level, etc. But for the future, it's also important, for instance, to monitor the CO2 emissions worldwide. And if this is just done from one country, I'm quite sure that the other countries will not accept that. They will say, okay, it's a lie. So I think monitoring of emissions critical for climate change is a global challenge. So the different spacefaring entities worldwide should work together to define a program how to monitor then in a reliable and accepted way worldwide the emissions so that nobody can hide behind the argument it's not our data, we don't trust them. But the other aspect is the post-ISS, and therefore also the question, what do we do together? You heard that I was saying, don't look just for another mission, or a single mission would be the worst answer to that. What we need is a program, an international program, and this program should follow some general goals, some requirements, some demands, and therefore for me personally, I put a whole list of requirements I would like to be fulfilled. So internationalization is one, but for instance, the question of fundamental research, because if you want to have innovation in the future, you have to have a seamless chain of innovation from fundamental research to the market. And I put some experiments in zero-G and so on and so on and so on. So a long list of requirements, and then I said, okay, only requirements will not be listened in the public. So I said, okay, I have to have at least a proposal how to realize these requirements. And I found out that I need two aspects. One is what I call the frequent Earth orbit access, where we can do micro-G experiments, where we can do something with debris removal, which is also important, also as a global challenge. It's not only a national one. And the other one is then making an international exploration program, not only a single mission. And there I think that to go to the moon again, but maybe for instance on the far side where we have the shadow of the moon for the radiation of the Earth, it's a very beneficial place for looking into the universe, and at the same time, if we go close to the poles, we may have water over there. So there are companies asking for mining, there are companies interested in tourism, so all of this, and I put all together in a word which was a little bit misleading for some people. Only the smarter one understood what I meant, and that was Moon Village. Moon Village not consisting of some houses, a church, a city hall, or an Eiffel Tower, or whatever, but village should be saying that different actors from different nations, from different companies, whatever, they have free and open access to that common basis and they should use it for their special purpose, whether it's mining, robotics, telemedicine, whatever. Therefore, this idea is still on the table, and as I repeatedly said, the better is the enemy of the good. So if there is a better proposal to really realize all these requirements, I'm not only ready, I'm more than happy, because I'm quite sure that there are smarter guys than just the civil engineer as a Director General of ESA. In addition to these very concrete aspects to develop the future, we also have to look into the questions of what is happening in general terms with space. Who will be the actors in the future? What about the situation between private and public investment? And so on and so on. A long list of that, how to really put society and citizens, especially the young people, into the decision process of what we are doing, because as we know, I mean, Rosetta was decided more than 20 years ago. Many people who decided at that time are now already retired. It's good that they are still there and active, but I would like to have also projects of people deciding, and they still are in work when it's realized. And some of these projects really take long. Therefore, I think what we can do as an agency, and me personally being more than 60 years old, like you, Franco, we have nearly the same age. What we can only do is we cannot foresee the future, but we can really enable it, as Saint-Exupéry was saying. So therefore, but we need to be brave enough for these changes to take into account and not stay where we are and say, okay, it was perfect, we have 50 years of history of ESA, therefore we do the same as 50 years ago. No, we have to move, we have to accept and also anticipate the shift of paradigm which is going there. At the same time, we have to take the responsibility that we don't get lost in this shift of paradigm. For instance, if you say, okay, private investment, that's all what we do. Look to what area will be in the private investment. It will be not the full chain of innovation from fundamental research, applied research, development to the final product. There will be then, you will have some gaps in between, or maybe you're losing the seed of fundamental research. So the public agency, the public entities have to be also responsible to secure the future, to safeguard the future, and this is something I have on my agenda for the next not only 12 months, but for a longer period. Now I'm open for any type of questions, if you like. And if I forgot something, Franco or the staff of ESA will immediately react and say, Woerner, you forgot this and that.
Wait a minute. It's a press conference, so priority to press. We have plenty of time, then others can take the floor. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And introduce yourself. I give you the microphone. Thank you.
Peter Deselding, Space News. 2 questions. First, on the ministerial meeting in late 2016, you said that one of the decisions it will make would be to extend Europe's contribution in ISS to 2024, correct? Okay. When do you need to find out from NASA whether the barter agreement you have now on NASA's Orion crew transport system will be continued? In other words, whether Europe will be building the service module for that system beyond just one and change, but for a longer period, and that will be used to offset your costs of the space station. Second question, ExoMars. That's Europe's exploration program right now. It's pretty much ExoMars. You recently made a decision to delay ExoMars from January to March. So you'll be at the end of the 2016 Mars window because of a component issue that failed was suspect on several satellites. My question to you is this. Component failures happen. This one, it seems, happened some time ago. So my question is whether you have looked into this and whether the failure notification process, which didn't end up being found out by ExoMars until very late, was a problem.
Okay. the first question, the question of the European Service Module for Orion, maybe directly and 100% linked to the question of the extension of ISS. It's not automatically, but our proposal, or let's say my proposal today is that we are using further European service modules as barter elements for the use of the ISS, for the transportation to ISS, etc. This is my proposal today. Let's assume, and I always have to assume something like that, that there is some obstacle in between. Then we have to look for another barter element. But for sure we will, if we continue with ISS, and I certainly will promote that very strongly, then we need a barter element instead of paying cash to the other partners. So the service module is for me priority number one for that. Second one, ExoMars, yes, it's exploration. It's at the same time it's science. You should not make a difference between it. It's science. We have this, I would not call it delay. Usually I would say it's not even worthwhile to go to public with that. It's within the same window. We are within the same window. We are flying within the same window. It's part of the transparency of ESA that we are publicly talking about that we have an issue. Usually you would say, okay, we are fitting, we fit it, and then we fly. That would be the normal reaction. No, we thought we will inform the public. You're right that this problem we have there with a special sensor is not a nice one, and I was surprised because I got the information also very late. This brings me to the situation that we need for the future a more coherent and stabilized and comprehensive, these are the words I was looking for, management of experience. This is not only for the sensors or for small parts of a launcher, but also in general. You see, we have a retirement wave in front of us at ESA. We will have a big number of people retiring, and it's very important that we safeguard the knowledge they have. So therefore, the knowledge management becomes more and more important because all the systems are becoming more complex. If you have just a very simple thing, then it's fine. But now we have complex systems with complex experience of different people. So knowledge management, and I would put that, what you are asking, in knowledge management, it's very important to keep this knowledge and to transfer it then also to be not surprised that a failure takes place a second time.
Number two here.
David Todd, I'm from Data Space Intelligence and Spaceflight Magazine. I also speak as a British citizen and a small investor. The first question is, you've spoken of being in favour of the United States of Europe. Is that an attempt to influence any potential UK referendum as opposed to... And also, will you treat the UK the same if we do decide to secede from the EU? And the second question relates to future launch vehicles after Ariane 6. The French have long had the launches of fiefdom. That's pretty unfair, but have been mainly in charge of it, and they're now considering a reasonable first stage. Will you commit to ensuring that the reaction engines Skylon concept will still be in the running as a successor to Ariane 5?
We will continue Skylon only if UK remains in European Union. No. No. So, really, I tell you my personal opinion. I'm really upset about the situation in Europe. I'm really upset that some member states of the European Union, just because of their personal benefit, or individual or nationwide benefit, are considering to leave the European Union. I think this is really bad. If you are in a union, solidarity is the most important value you have. And if you leave that just because of your special interest, I'm really upset about that. However, observing this, and it's not only UK, we have observed it, and I observed it in several other countries also, some how should I say, reverse positioning. So therefore, to become European, United States of Europe is a little bit getting farther away than it was some years ago. Economic crisis and all of this is mixed with, suddenly with Union or United States of Europe idea. And I'm just saying because of that, and I don't like to erase my dream. I said, okay, then let's at least make united space in Europe right now. And by the way, we are not so autistic to say only who has already the stamp of European Union on his wherever, we are considering him or it as a partner. We have Switzerland and we have Norway not being partner, unfortunately, of the European Union. And I don't accept that the European Commission is saying, therefore, they are a problem of security. I don't accept that one. But for us, they are very good partners, Norway and Switzerland. So, but I will not say what happens if UK leaves the European Union or whether Catalonia is getting independent. This is not my playground. If you elect me for that position, we can discuss it. But right now, I'm the Director General of ESA, and we are happy to have 22 member states. Full stop. Your second question was concerning future launchers. I ask all of you, smart brains of any age, look for future launcher systems. What we have today, that in many cases the launch prices are, let's say, more than 30% at least of a mission. This is for the future, that's not really nice. We should have cheaper versions. However, the Ariane 6, also to make a clear statement, Ariane 6 and Vega, this was a 100% correct decision at this time to get a reasonable launcher family for medium and large payloads, from Vega to Ariane 62, 64. I totally confirm that this decision was the right decision at the right time, and we have to do it because we know when we are looking for alternative solutions, it will take, let's say, 15, 20 years at least. So therefore, but I ask all smart brains around the world, not only in Europe, to find better solutions, cheaper but reliable solutions. We need reliability at the same time, that's for sure. I visited Skylon, I visited also a test there. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Let's see.
I had a third question here, and then I go over to 4.
Scott Hatton, BIS Spaceflight, also like my colleague behind me. ESA has a very strong corporate style brand. I even noticed behind you, organized is not spelt the ESA way. You have a style guide that dictates everything. But looking beyond your first 100 days, do you think you will adapt to ESA style or ESA will adapt to your style? Because your predecessor was very different from you.
Good question. You see, I'm the elected Director General, and according to the convention of ESA, there are only 2 institutional bodies. One is the Council and one is the Director General. So it's the Director General have to make the member states happy, and the member states, I like them if they make me happy. So, it's not a question, what about the tradition of the last 50 years? All of them, Roy Gibson, Rodotta, Reimer Lüst, Jean-Jacques Dordain, they were in their time, they were very good for ESA. I hope that in about whatever years, somebody will say, yes, and this time with Jan Woerner was not the worst time of ESA at all. So this is what I'm looking for. I think a comparison is not right because, and also the question, because ESA is moving and was always moving. The time of Jean-Jacques was different than the time of Rodotta or the time of Gibson. The ESA is changing, a very moving thing. Number of member states, I discussed with Reimer Lüst, he said, yeah, it's very easy, you have 7 member states. I said, no, I have 22. So therefore, it's a changing institution, and this is, by the way, what is important, that we are ready to change all the time. This is in my heart that I would like to do a small step in this change also during my term.
Number 4 here, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Jarosław Jaworski, Poland. From your blog and from your style, I conclude that you would like to be disruptive Director General. So my question is quite direct. What, in your opinion, nowadays are the main problems of ESA that are blocking agency to be interesting partner globally?
Okay. So first of all, disruptive, this was a word I was using the last years as I think it's very important. There's one person who was very afraid about that, that was my wife, because she did not know what that means for the private situation. But anyhow, I'm convinced that disruption, and there is, by the way, the guy who told me I should use it, it's John Howick, who some years ago told me disruptive, think about whether you would like to use that word, and I'm using it, John, still. It's really necessary, and there are a lot of areas where we need that. The first and most important for me is we have to change the way how we define projects. In the past, we said, okay, we will do a mission, we go to this or that place, and now let's see who is joining and what instruments we can take on the mission, and so on and so on. My way is, first of all, the other way around. First decide the goals, and then go. And now even more disruptive, don't tell the goals by yourself, but ask people, what are your goals in that? And people meaning really people, not only the experts. Because the experts are more or less, I like experts, of course, but they have more or less a consolidated idea already. And it's very important to ask really the public, what are your expectations? You cannot go on the street and say, what should be the next mission of ESA? That's, of course, ridiculous. But the public has an expectation. And for instance, they are very interested in science. I was very, not surprised, I was confirmed. And when I got, after the Rosetta mission, emails saying, we were so happy that our taxpayers' money went into this mission. So the broad community, the society, is very much more interested in different aspects than sometimes politicians assume. So we should use it. So using the public, using then goals, and then go to the real projects. This is maybe, I count it now as one change, one disruption. The second one is the behavior vis-à-vis the programs itself. In the past, agencies liked very much micromanagement. This was the main aspect, to decide whether the screw is this direction or that direction. I'm sure the future will be different. The future will be that the agencies are defining the requirements and then changing the governance much more to responsible entities like industry. And this comes to the third biggest challenge, and this is we have to keep time, money, and contents risk. What I mean is we cannot accept in the future that projects are delayed and delayed and delayed, that projects become more expensive. In space, I learned that if you delay a project, it's more expensive. If you make it faster than planned, it's more expensive. If you ask to stay in the time schedule, it's more expensive. This is not acceptable. And the third thing is also contents-wise, that if we are doing something, we should be sure that we define the risk which is related, and then with this risk we go ahead or we don't go ahead. Because sometimes we cannot really say in advance whether it will work or not. Put a laser in vacuum. It will behave differently. This was discovered now in a special project. So therefore, the third thing is really to be more consistent with the risks of timetable, schedule, and contents-wise. Because the member states, when they subscribe, they should know how secured is this program in all the three items. Otherwise, we are losing confidence, and that's what I don't like to.
Other questions? Raise your hands. Okay, Theo.
Yes, Theo Pirard, Wallonie Espace Info. When you was the boss of DLR, there was a payload, a German payload on board the Shenzhou spaceship. Will you favor the participation of European payload and a European astronaut to the Chinese space station?
So I had a meeting with the Chinese this morning. And as I said yesterday, I believe, and this is, I don't know whether I can communicate it because, again, it might be as difficult as Moon Village. I am there, and my opinion is we should cooperate worldwide in space. Worldwide, meaning all countries, all interested countries should be on board, not on board of them. I mean, you understand what I mean. So that means space can bridge even earthly crisis. However, and now the however is important, however, we should not forget about values, individual or institutional or national or continental values. For me, values in this respect are, for instance, intellectual property rights and human rights. I will not forget about that. That means I'm not naive in cooperation, but I think cooperation in any case is an important instrument, and we should not hide behind the values and say because we have the values we are not cooperating. That would be the wrong answer. And the citizens of the world, not only of Europe, have the right to get the information that the space agencies are working together worldwide. Meaning, Gravity was a nice movie, but I don't think that it makes sense to have two space stations flying at the same time. And I said that exactly as I'm saying right now. I said that to the Chinese. They were a little bit, okay. Now, the question is now, what do we do? I said, if we open the doors of ISS, if China is knocking, would you then join? And they have to answer that question. So therefore, I see a scientific cooperation with China, and if you look to the current situation of having only one transportation mean for humans, this is the Russian one, it's from a risk-taking perspective, not a very favorable situation. If we discover any problem with Soyuz tomorrow, we are not in a favorable situation. So therefore, that was something I discussed even some years ago with the Americans concerning a possible European transportation mean. This is these days not really on the agenda. But so we should see whether we can come also with other nations who are interested in human transportation, like China, at least to a situation that we have the same docking system and not totally different ones. So this is at least. But I'm looking forward to have a joint activity with the Chinese also in the station. And in the future, after the ISS, that we are not trying to raise some fences here and there. Germany has some tradition, 25 years ago, to tear down this wall, and I would like to tear down the walls on a global scale.
The next question, thank you, comes from the back of the room. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, Albert Gowet here, just a PhD. You know that funding or money is one of the main issues of space agencies. So do you think it's even possible that ESA will get a comparable budget to that of NASA? And if so, what is the strategy to do that?
Finding money is not the main issue. I don't have that opinion. Finding the best ideas is the main issue. If you have a very good idea, then you will get the money. This is a simple and naive sentence, somebody will say, but in fact it is like that. Whenever we had very good ideas, it was possible also to realize it. Of course, then we have to convince the politicians because they are our not only stake but also shareholders, and they have the taxpayers' money. But if the taxpayer have a good idea, and therefore my approach, what was asked before, the approach to take the taxpayer very seriously, will then also get an impact on getting the money for it. Of course, we are fighting for the money. I have to fight for the money. I have to go there. This is my daily work, but I'm always trying not to go there. I need another 100 million, but to say I have a nice idea how to tackle the problem of migration. Isn't it worth to spend some money for that? This is the way it works. So look for the ideas first and not say, do we get the money as NASA gets? No, this is not my target. My target is to do good work for the sake of humankind. I know it's a little bit big words, but today maybe it's the time for big words. And then we will get also the funding for it. I'm quite sure, because politicians have to follow the interest. Franco, your phone is ringing. Maybe it's some money. It's from France. I see. Okay. So therefore, I'm quite convinced that if we have good ideas, if you have good ideas, it's not only me. Again, don't wait until the Director General has the right ideas. Bring them to me. My email address, very simple, jan.woerner@esa.int. And Ms. Carmen, she is already afraid about that. So bring the ideas, and then you can have me as the promoter of your ideas to get the money for it.
Okay, there's a gentleman in first row, then I come to the lady over there.
My name is Margal. I'm a board member of the Israeli Press Association. And like you said before, the problem of the space travels is speed, more speed in more economic and efficient engines. So what do you think, and what ESA think about the option in the future of magnetic fusion engines?
Nice question. I will not go into the very important field and details of propulsion. So we have different ideas: air breathing propulsion, nuclear propulsion, chemical propulsion, electrical propulsion, and I hope there will still be some more ideas. There's the elevator idea, which I calculated. I never came to the result, but anyhow, I understood it finally. So whatever is on the table, we should look into the affordability, the reliability, and the safety. I mean, safety issue has also to be considered. And then some of them might be not really the solution, but the safety is the most important one, and reliability is also very important, and affordability is unfortunately the last one, because if you have an unsafe system but you can afford it, that makes no sense.
Okay, and I have a lady here. Introduce yourself.
Of course. My name is Olympia Kyriopoulos. I work for Tespazuvega in Darmstadt and lead the newspaper section over there. My question is, the first plenary session with the different heads of space agencies, the main message was we need to collaborate, we need joint ventures, otherwise not just one nation will go to Mars or Moon or further on explore. Today in the session of the plenary regarding space transportation, with future directions, etc., and the different parties on stage, I must say I had the feeling that they're all going to different directions and not really agreeing. It's everyone sitting there and presenting his plan, but not a common plan. So how can we change this paradigm?
I don't know who was sitting there, but I can tell you that the heads of space agencies had a meeting, some of them, not all of them, had a meeting on Sunday and yesterday in public, and we agreed. So the thing is, and this is what I'm a little bit worried about, that these general statements we heard yesterday are not coming to a substance at the end. And therefore, I'm now promoting even a little bit more detailed, heavier, more concrete. We have to. And if you look to the paper of NASA, Journey to Mars, they don't say that they will go to Mars next week or in 10 years' time. They don't say that. They say that for them, Mars is something where they would like to be the leader in the far future. And to go there, there is some intermediate steps. And I'm saying, let's go to the moon, because the moon is reachable. By the way, again, the health problem of Mars is for me still the biggest problem. To have a travel of 2 years' time, back and forth, or forth and back is even better. Then if you have a strong disease in between, what do you do? Is that Big Brother watching you, how you are dying? That's not acceptable. It's the same with Mars 1, which I don't accept. But so therefore, I think to go to moon, to learn about, to establish something together, to make an international, really international exploration on moon, or close to the Earth at least, that's a point where we should agree right now. And I understood the heads of agencies yesterday in the open discussion that they are favoring that they are in favor of that. So now I take it seriously, and I'm now discussing with all of them. And we need the help of the others. ESA cannot do it alone, and we don't want to do it alone. That's even more important. Even if we could, we would not like to do it alone. I don't know who was talking differently, but the heads of space agencies are really coherent in that, but not concrete enough. I accept that one, and I will take care of that.
Okay, we still have time, so raise your hands, Peter again, and here you go.
Just maybe to clarify for those in the room who don't follow ESA so much, when you talk about your moon...
Is there still one?
There are one or two. When you're talking about your moon plan, you have 0 member state support for that so far. 0 financial commitment, 0 indications from the big member states that they agree that moon instead of Mars. You're just talking here as Jan Woerner, Director General of ESA, without the backing of your member states. Is that fair to say?
I would not agree. You see, I'm putting a proposal on the table for a question all member states are raising. So, the member states are raising what happens after ISS. And therefore, I'm putting a proposal on the table. This is a very normal way of working. It would be even better if the proposal comes directly out of the community, of the society. But I put just one proposal on the table. And I hope that in the next coming months that not only Jan Woerner, but that there is some people, preferably the young people, are looking to this idea, looking to the requirements, saying, okay, we have a better idea, let's go to this or that location or something like that, and that I can have a proposal not next year on the ministerial. I don't need any money for that right now. We should, the next time, use to come to a common view. And it may be, as you are saying, it may be that none of the member states of ESA is ready, even within a scale of 10 years, to put a big amount of money into it. It may be. It may be. But there are also some indications that they're saying we would like to continue human spaceflight. Whenever we have an European astronaut of whatever nationality in the respective country, we have really a wave. Yesterday we had, no, it was the day before yesterday. Eh? Day before yesterday I had a telecon with video conference, even with Naples. There were 1,000 people, or how many in that room? About 2,000 people in that room. All were there just because they were fascinated of Samantha Cristoforetti, no, of human spaceflight. And this happens in Denmark, this happens in UK, and you will see it with Tim Peake. It will be, or it's already running in that direction. So I think there is a movement. It was also in Germany. So the member states, of course, have to decide whether they put money into it or not later on. But I'm a free man in a free world. I can have a proposal. If you say I have no backing, that would be the wrong wording for that. I don't have money for it right now, given by the member states. I have only my private money. It's not sufficient. But I would not say I'm not backed. I would not be backed. That would mean they are against it. And this is not the case. So the proposal is there to discuss it. And we will discuss it, and I got big support from all over the world for this proposal. But of course, you're right, I need, at a certain point in time, I need a concrete support by the member states and by the international partners. I mean, it's also for NASA, it's also the same for JAXA and so on. They need to have an opinion about it. So we are in an opinion-finding process.
Irene.
Hi, Irene Klotz with Reuters. I think it's clear that all the space agencies are saying now that they're not interested in the flags and footsteps and these single missions. NASA talks about the cislunar area as a stepping stone on the way to Mars, but your project, as you kind of summarize it, it sort of sets the moon as this intermediary point. And although in practice, everybody might be kind of on the same page and the same thinking, but your language is very different. And in the United States, at least, it's NASA's not talking at all about going to the moon. They say it as like, oh, we're going to Mars. Oh yeah, P.S., we're going to go to the moon too. So I guess I'm wondering is, why isn't, well, from your perspective, and I know you're just talking from yourself now and not from your member states, but talking about the moon as a stepping stone to Mars, or is that not really the ultimate goal of the world space programs as you see it? Is the moon and having the commerce and the companies and everybody that kind of wants to go to the moon for science, for all kinds of reasons, really a more palatable destination? Thanks.
That it's different language, I accept, because it's broken English and that's different to UK and America. I accept that one. But if you listen to yesterday's discussion, all of them, especially NASA also, were mentioning the moon as a very important aspect to go to, body to go to. They said cislunar, we don't want to be the leader in that, but we are ready to go there. That's what Charlie Bolden said. He did not say we don't want to go there. I don't like the word of ultimate goal. That's for sure. Ultimate means, to my understanding, but maybe it's a problem of my broken English, that's the final goal, the final solution. We have in Germany some problems with that word, but that's another story. I don't like the word of ultimate goal because I think humans will hopefully survive on this planet even in the next hundreds of millions of years. This is my hope. For that we have to do something with climate change and other aspects. But in a certain point in time, whenever it is, humans will leave this planet to go to farther destinations than Moon and Mars. I mean, to go down to land on Jupiter is not a nice environment, and also the sun is not nice, but I'm quite sure if you see Interstellar, so this is something which is obviously in our heritage, in our mind, in our heart. At least I feel it. To go to where no man and no woman has boldly gone before. This is what we like to go. So I think these movies show that there is this spirit, and people are viewing these movies and find them interesting. Star Trek and whatever, you name it, hopefully not Star Wars, you name it, and that means I'm quite sure we will leave this planet for further destinations. And for me, the moon is right now a very logical point to go. And all the states on the podium and even in other places said yes, to go to the moon makes sense. And they have all moon projects. Also NASA has moon projects, cislunar and whatever. So, but what my idea is to put them a little bit closer together, to have a joint understanding, okay, not duplicating, but using synergy, and at the same time accept diverse ideas, diverse, how should I say, diverse future-oriented goals. But to put them together and to learn from each other, and by the way, also to use the money, the limited money we have, for the best purpose. It makes no sense to have the fourth rover at the same location. So therefore, working together means also saving money. And this is, again, I'm quite sure that the citizens of the world are much more understanding that than we believe. They will understand that cooperation is a higher value than national vanities. And this is what I'm trying to support.
Thank you, dear Director General. We have gone beyond the allocated time. I know that if I let you go, you speak for 1 more hour. We're not allowed to do that. I want to thank you very much for participating so numerous. I thank the IAF for hosting us at the Global Networking Forum. Thank you very much, and a big applause to all of you. Thank you.